Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of my research interview series. Today we have a special guest, Mike Boylan. You probably recognize Mike's name if I tell you what he does. Mike has created spaghettymodels.com, Mike's weather page. So for everyone that lives around me, you know exactly who I'm talking about because you guys are glued to him 24/7 when a storm is coming. So Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, Wilmington. I love the Carolinas. We have a lot of fans up there. So
Oh
thanks for the
yeah.
opportunity. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
definitely, definitely. It's you know what you've done has been great, and that's so. My first question is, what exactly is Mike's weather page, spaghetti models? Why would someone go to your site? Tell me what this is.
Well, the website itself kind of started it all for me in 2004, living in Florida. I was going to school for marketing and learned some HTML and decided to put together a web page because I was getting frustrated trying to find graphics. You know, it was like I think 99% of the world loves spaghetti models. I love spaghetti models.
Sure.
You always want that one little noodle, even though you don't want a storm to hit you. Everybody always sees that one little noodle going to your house, and you're like, "Oh my god!" So I put together a site, and it was just shared between friends and family. And really, it was for me. It was. I didn't even share it. I don't think for the first couple. I just wanted a page for me to go to. You know, look, all one page. And you know what? Over the years, it's still got the same simple look. And I'm constantly updating graphics, and I'm fortunate enough to, National Weather Service now links our site and
Sure.
it brags about us using their products, and we have other people in the industry that know that feed us great information, and it's kind of the one-stop shop. It's still that's the whole purpose, just have a place to go to see the latest weather graphics, especially when it comes to hurricanes. And
So, so how did this become a part of you? Why weather? You were, as you said, you were going to school for marketing. So where
yeah,
does weather come into the picture as an interest in your life?
I, I think maybe just living in Florida, the fascination of hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up watching Weather Channel and seeing Jim Cantori. The
Yep.
cone of uncertainty.
He's a scary guy when he's coming to where you
Oh
are.
yeah, yeah. I bumped into him at Biloxi, by the way, this year. I started storm chasing. That was kind of a highlight of one of the highlights of my whole journey here is meeting him. But I just became obsessed with tracking storms and the unknowns. I think everybody has that inside of them. It's like you watch a tropical system born, and you first, it's like a what if. Oh my God, there's something brewing. You start to see past.
Yeah,
It becomes almost like a story. Every system's like a story, and it just living in Florida again. I think it is. We have so many named systems, and the media does its part, not to hype. I mean, everybody, a lot of media
sure.
hypes, and it just gets everybody fired up. And
Yeah,
it's a weird addiction.
it is. And the storms, I mean, living through some of them, they are, I mean, it's crazy. So
Oh
you
yeah.
know, it really is. So you go to college, you're focusing on marketing, you're in a class developing HTML. Was this a class project? They were like, develop a website, or you were just like, I'm learning some HTML. I'm kind of interested in weather. Let me create a cool site that I can go to see like some cool weather reports or something like that, you know?
Yeah, it was completely my own taking.
Yeah.
I just started out with, and I still write some of the same code. It's so basic. I mean, everything's gotten complicated over the years, but I still go back to the fundamentals. I did that first year learning, the simple tables and rows and
Yeah.
columns, and yeah, and like I said, yeah, I didn't even have the domain at first. I was
Yeah.
backdooring another site that I had, and then along comes Facebook, and I think half of, if you were to call this a brand now, is Facebook has its own audience, and that started in 2009, and we have a whole new crop of fans only on Facebook, and that's become a whole separate project in itself. Updating and just maintaining that lifestyle basically, and so it's kind of like twofold now. I've got the website fans, we got the Facebook fans, and now I've recently got into Twitter and Instagram. There's a whole different world out there in Instagram now that I've found out that doesn't even go to Facebook. So I'm learning that, and
Hmm.
Twitter's its own little animal. So it's
So
four things.
it sounds like this is a full time job. Has this become a full time job? Like, is this paying the bills for you yet? Like, are you at that phase?
I no, it takes the time of a full time job,
Yeah.
especially the summertime. I mean, I literally wake up and first thing I do is roll over and look at the phone, and look at the latest overnight
Hmm.
00Z model runs or the Euro. It comes out around 2 a.m. Eastern. When I go to bed by midnight, it's just it's a kind of a hobby. It's really a hobby. And if you didn't love it, I couldn't do it. But
Yeah.
I love it. So it does take the time. And luckily, I have made a few bucks. We have Facebook supporters and we get some sponsors. I actually got a paid administrator now on social media. I had to because we got 1 million followers on
Yeah.
Facebook. We get spammed to death or hacked, and having that extra set of eyeballs. So I never dreamed it would become to that point.
Sure.
And we're doing storm chasing this season. I got to travel out to Houston and Louisiana, Key West, hoping I hope I come to see you guys in a non-hurricane way. But
Yeah.
everything was focused on the Upper Gulf this year. But I had a really good time meeting supporters and fans. So that part's been a lot of fun too. So I mean, it's luckily I do a lot of computer work. When I began this, my wife was at Publix supermarkets, which is big down here in Florida. And
Yeah, they're here too. Yeah, we have
okay,
Publix.
yeah, she's been at 34 years now, and I remember sitting on the couch with my laptop and used to update. Back in 2004 is when I started it. Before we had kids, my oldest is 15 now, and it's hard to imagine I started this in 2 years before she was born. And now I look at her and I'm like, wow, I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that when you're creating something like this, that when you're a creator of anything, your website and the Facebook pages, how much time it does. If you don't love it, you will quit it so quickly because it
Mhm.
becomes a full-time job. It has to be part of your being, part of what you really enjoy
It is.
doing.
And I agree. Everything you do, everybody does their best if they enjoy what they're doing.
Sure.
I don't care
Hmm.
what job it is. And, if you enjoy what you're doing, you're going to be successful at it. And but somehow this thing's turned into that. I've never dreamed in 1 million years that it would become what it has. And but to this day, I'd still do what I was doing with or without
Yeah,
any 1 million followers or not. I mean,
exactly.
I
Yeah.
love it. So that's just a good piece of advice for anybody. I grew up racing radio control cars as a hobby. In fact, I went to Wilmington a bunch. I mean, my parents, when I was in high school, traveled the whole country racing these little radio control cars. And when I got out of college, I opened up a hobby shop here in Tampa, and I was very successful at it. And again, we had family members that mocked my mom and dad. They're like, oh, he's in the little toy cars. Well, that little toy cars got me. Yeah, I got very successful in that, and met Tony Stewart, and a lot of NASCAR guys became friends with because they do it. And so again, you take your passion in anything. I think you can be successful at it.
I hear the same thing. I mean, I'm doing a lot of esports stuff at the university level, and people are like video games in college. I have a student right now who just got a full scholarship to go play a video game at another university. So
I believe it.
there's money out there. Like if you love it, do it. Okay, so
Exactly.
so when did this site? So you started in 2000 roughly 2004 when you're taking this class. You start your Facebook page. You start that around 2008, 2009. At what point were you like, this is more than me just having a hobby little website? This is people are using this. At what point were you like, okay, this is something here?
Well, probably with us was Irma. Irma was coming up Florida, and both sides of the state were under hurricane warnings, and got a lot of followers then. And everything compounds in life, money, everything.
Sure.
But that was the storm. I think that really excelled our viewership. And since then, every year we have a big storm. Hurricane Michael up in the Panhandle. You mentioned Florence before we went, before we went
Yeah.
live. That was a big one. And then Dorian a couple years back was sitting right off the coast of Florida, and it drew a lot of attention to us. So it just seems like every storm magnifies the site. And More government officials are using it or
Yeah.
complimenting it,
Hmm.
and I've been fortunate to go to radio shows. So everything's just kind of building. It's really cool. It's word of mouth.
So you never
Obviously,
did any kind of advertising in the early
nope.
days. It was just all just hey, telling your friends and family and starting from there, and Google search engine
Yeah,
and all that stuff. And
I think Facebook really put it
yeah,
uh, over for me because it's a great platform for sharing and friends and
yeah.
families, and that's been huge for me to get the word out. I mean, the website does great on its own, but using social media platforms now, you just got to use all tools. I was going to post something today. It was just ironic because I was thinking back to when I met my wife in '01, Julie, and I was so fed up with dating, and I was so big in the internet back then. It was AOL back then with dial-up,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm going to use this dang internet and find a girlfriend. And you know what? We met online in '01. Now it's like a big thing, right? But I'm like, I use the internet, use the tools that you got, and the internet, like you mentioned, your e-games. Um, Heck, you embrace it. You embrace technology, and it's a world wide web. That now I got people following us down in like Lesser Antilles, Virgin Islands, Barbados. I didn't know where these countries were a couple years ago.
And now you're
Literally.
like reporting on them. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
So are
Bermuda. I mean,
so
Bermuda of all
you have a
places.
social media person now, which is completely understandable. Million followers on Facebook. Are you still doing all this web work yourself, or do you have anyone
Oh,
else?
no, I do it. It's my baby. I update the site dozens of times a day. Um,
Do you have any
yeah,
special like hardware, software?
no, no, I just keep a good desktop going. I got a few monitors. During the season, I'll have a third computer running. I'll keep Twitter rolling because Twitter updates and get a lot of
Yeah.
updates, and I keep a lot of message boards open. But it's like a pulse. It's like when you're when you're dealing with the tropics, you got to really be connected to a storm, and every update is so important. Like with the models, and
Hmm.
I feel like our fans love that too. Like they love every model run. They love every following this thing. And with Florence was a great example. I'll never forget when it was coming off the coast of Africa. 99% of Met said it was going to recurve out of sea because it was so far high
Yeah, I
up.
remember that. There was a point where we were like, "Oh, we're safe." I remember talking to some guys at the bus stop. Like we were like, "Oh, we're
Yeah,
good. The storm's not coming to us."
that's what everybody said, and I almost fell into that trap. And I always preach, never say never because it always bites weather people because you can't predict. I mean, what the coolest thing about what I do too is no matter how much science the weather always throws you for a loop. I mean,
Yeah.
even this season, for example, we're in a La Nina pattern, which is supposed to be warm and really moist in the south, and it's been the opposite. So weather always throws 180 at you, and Florence is the best example. And I've done a lot of presentations over the years to insurance industries, school teach-ins, and I use Florence as an example of how things change. And Florence did this little weird, went north, hit a high, came back around, hit a high, and then it came back, close to the coast. But it also developed into a Cat 4 out in the middle
Yeah.
Atlantic, and the water temperatures were cool enough that it wasn't supposed to do that. Like, 80 degrees is supposed to be the threshold. And it was really cool out there. And everybody's like, "Whoa, category 4." It was like, where'd this come from? And and then it kind of went south after it came, and then it stalled, and it ended up being a huge rain event. That nobody
Yeah.
even talked about the threat. So every storm, does that. Michael, 3 days out, every Category 5 hurricane that ever hit the United States, 3 days out was only a tropical storm. That is the most craziest fact ever.
Wow, I didn't realize that. But we were
Yeah,
hit.
all
Wow, yeah, we were hit with a storm last year that was supposed to be a tropical storm coming into Wilmington, and it was
mhm.
almost a 2 when it actually hit us.
Yep, yep. There was two of them that did that. Hannah,
Yeah, it might have been
was that
Hannah. Yeah.
Hannah? I think
I
it's
can't
Hannah.
remember the name of it, but
I,
yeah,
I,
it was
I,
last year. It was last season.
If it was, no, Hannah was Texas, but there was two of them that did the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible history buff. Like I move on to the next storm.
Yeah.
But you're right. We had two storms last year. The last second did that, and surprised everybody.
So why do you think so people we have the weather service. Why do you have a million followers? Why are people going to your site for your information?
I think a lot of it is they say I don't hype. People hate hype. Now the Hurricane Center doesn't hype. I think the problem with some of the government graphics is they're very hard to find. Like you really have to dig.
Yeah, they are.
and that's the one compliment, is I'm able to pull them to the site. So I think the government sites have great products. It's just hard maybe to find them. As far as like the pull to our site, we have a lot of fun. I think our little clique of people just enjoyed the same things. We joke around outside of weather a lot. I share a lot of dogs pictures and camping pictures. So I think it's become more of a, we call ourselves Drunk Donkey Nation. So everybody just feels like they're part of this weather thing we got going on. We're like a big family. And I do monitor and I post a lot. And I never let anybody down. I'm proud of that. I'm very into it. And I think people see that. I don't know. Another thing I hear a lot of, which I don't really believe, but a lot of people think whether media has agendas. Different stations are more about the hype. Some are about
trying to get ratings or whatever.
Exactly.
Like when they had that picture of the guy blowing, like fake blowing in the hurricane, and there was like a person in the background, like not moving.
Oh yeah, they got in trouble.
Last year I think that was, or the year before. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, that was. They got in trouble for that. Bad. So yeah, don't hope I never do that.
So when you're during these storms, you're posting, as you said, you're up at midnight checking the.
Yep.
You're looking at the 2 a.m. Euros coming in. Are you ever sleeping when a major storm's about to impact the U.S.? Like, what is your day like when a storm is 2 days out and coming in and about to hit us? Like, what are you doing?
Well, let's see. Like Laura was the big one this year. Our biggest one this last season was Laura, and we actually watched. I was online like 7 hours straight. And we were watching it approach landfall together. I had thousands of people watching. That was weird. I think about 12 hours before a storm, the hype of my site lowers because everybody kind of knows where it's going by then. There's no big surprises. So I continually update, but by then people are evacuated.
Yeah.
So most people know that's coming. Have already took steps to.
Yeah, they better have 12 hours. 12 hours away.
Right. So that's kind of. I feel like my lull actually starts to begin right before landfall. It's always so weird. It's like once we know for sure where the storm's going, there's no more speculation or. But it's all that speculation ahead of time that just drives the interest. The cones are always shifting a little bit, and. That's the biggie. I know we're a couple months out of hurricane season, but I'm already getting that feeling like, oh boy, we're close again, and we're going to be tracking and seeing. It all starts with a little dot out in the Atlantic, and then interest. And once people see spaghetti models, it's like bam. Like I can just tell on my social media posts, like when there's an initial, they call them an invest. When a system is designated as an invest area, and I post the first spaghetti models, oh my goodness, it's like. That post right there gets the most shares because anticipation is like pegged.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of like, oh boy, it's coming. And
so have you ever had any courses on any of this, or is it just all you? I'm so interested in this. I'm reading everything, like just you like taking in all the information from everywhere. Did you ever?
Yeah. No, I'm 100% self-taught. Like anything, because I did go to school, it's kind of, there's a lot of stuff online to learn.
Sure.
And I have a lot of respected people I follow that I learn from them. I think everybody in the weather community feeds off each other. Like even news, everything in life, everybody kind of feeds off each other. And luckily there's a lot of message boards that I read. And so it's just become a self-taught. And I will admit, I joke about it on my live. I do lives pretty much every day now. I joke with our fans that now I actually understand things. When I was becoming popular, I didn't even know anything. Like I was posting, I was growing. I must have sounded like an idiot back then because I really didn't understand highs and lows and pressures and atmosphere. Now I got to keep it simple, but at least I feel confident now. That I've learned a lot. And don't sound like an idiot as much. I still am sure I do at times.
No, that's good. And I always tell people like you can learn anything. You don't always have to like take courses and all this stuff to learn and really get involved in something. It's just a helpful way to do it for some people. And if
Well,
you,
school helped me. School helped me a ton because I had graduating school is tough. I mean, you're in university, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
hard, man. It's co- problem solving. Just
All those skills
digest.
that you learned there helped
Exactly.
you to obtain all the knowledge you currently have about weather.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. In marketing, believe it or not, my mom and dad are still around. They're my biggest fans in their 80s now, but they joke, they just can't believe I've used marketing, to get to where the site has become, and I love using the marketing side with the shirts and the logos. I got a graphics artist friend of mine. We're always coming out with fun stuff, and we had the Greek alphabet last year. We had a donkey dressed up in a toga, and using the dogs. We have a local brewery, Big Storm Brewery here. I put our dog on a beer can. So
Oh,
we call him
nice.
Hurricane Hunter. I had my fans name the dog Hunter, Hurricane Hunter. We've had the local hurricane hunters in Lakeland here actually on the runway holding the can, and it was just so cool. So yeah, I think using marketing has been just as much as um, the science.
So where did this logo, you mentioned this donkey logo, where did the donkey thing come from? Explain that. You got to tell the story.
It's just short and sweet. There's a big problem in the industry with what I'm doing. Not so much me, but the problem with anything is anybody can get on the internet and act like an expert. People pretty much believe everything they see on the internet. I mean, that's what's, even my mom, she'll be like quoting something like, "Mom, what are you reading these sites for?"
Sure.
Because they believe everything. Well, so real meteorologists, I respect every single one of them. They go to school, but they're fighting with people like me. And there's a lot of Billy Bob's websites. So anyway, I had a graphic that was shared, and it was actually during your storm. I'm not going to call anybody out, but I was sharing the Florence curving down a little bit south and slowing down and being a bigger impact than they were playing.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of locals were calling stations panicking, and so I was called out on TV like some dude down in Florida named Mike. Any drunk, then they went on, any drunk donkey can share a model.
Gotcha.
Basically, so they call me a drunk donkey.
So that's where it came from.
Yeah, yeah, and it was like any drunk donkey can share a spaghetti model and get everybody in a panic, basically. So ironically, not luckily for the folks affected, but the storm kind of did that, and I didn't look like a big idiot. But my people attacked. It became like, we have a little army, they take offense to it, and I was getting messages like, "You got to go over there and look at this." So the next day, my buddy made a shirt, and there you go.
That's actually awesome. That's a good story. That's how you that's how you come up with a nickname. That's how you come up with something. That's cool. That's a good story.
Yeah, and unfortunately, now our biggest fine wine and spirit store down here in Florida, ABC, is actually a sponsor now, and it's like, who would have thought?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the coolest thing too, this week I just shared it yesterday. Probably the most I haven't really announced it, but the most humbling message I got this week was that my page was voted the 2021 Tropical Meteorology Award at the Governor's Hurricane Conference, which is a huge conference here in Florida. It's big, like everybody goes to it. And past winners have been everybody from National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center. So, I love the fact that there's stuff like that legitimizes what we're doing.
Sure, that's awesome.
So,
yeah, congratulations.
yeah,
my wife was telling me, she was like, ask him about that award he just got, because she was telling. And so, what other recognition have you gotten? Is that, that sounds like the biggest thing you've
That's
gotten.
a pinnacle because our governor will be speaking. The heads of National Hurricane Center goes. All of the guys with Colorado State University be there doing their forecasts. So that's a big deal.
That's awesome.
Salvation. But I've had local newspapers, like, who is this guy? Write some pretty cool stuff. And I've been fortunate to, I put a little video skit together during, some of the highlights we were mentioned on Fox and Friends. The coolest video I think ever was when Dorian was coming. Fox and Friends was interviewing a guy at Home Depot, and they're like, were you worried? Was this, and he out of the blue says, "No, man, because we're following a guy, Mike's weather page, and his wife said drunk donkey, and then the guy on Fox and Friends says, wow, Mike called this thing out. But it was just weird that, like, here's national network news, and one of our fans gave us a shout out. So that's kind of neat. I mean, locally, all my local Mets are really cool. They all gave me their blessings a long time ago, appreciate what I'm doing, so I don't have any resistance.
Yeah.
Which is very odd if you think about it,
So having said that, so people are making life and death decisions about the weather in some cases. I mean, it's pretty, whether I'm going to evacuate, whether I'm not, am I riding this out? How do you handle that pressure, that advice that you're potentially giving them?
I know.
I mean, it's weather and it's unpredictable. So, you're not like, it's not your responsibility, but you're with all weather. Like, how do you handle that?
Well, I get a million requests on should I evacuate or not, and luckily that's where my administrator comes in. She's so good about having copy and pasted response. Like, Mike can't give you those type of decisions. But it's funny you asked that, because I had it asked one time before on our local radio guys asked me that, because I think I only post. I'm big about only posting things that I believe in and that I'm confident about. Like the big mistake I used to make when I was starting out more too was you'd see one model run, which you see all the time. It's head to Tampa, and you post it because it's like, oh my God, it's a Cat 3, and then the next model run it might be gone. You know, there's a lot of that out there. People create panic. They get a lot of likes like that. So I really work hard on until I believe something. In back to Florence, I don't pull the trigger on posting anything until I'm confident. And Michael, I guess I gained a lot of fans on Hurricane Michael when this thing was a tropical storm down by the Yucatan. It was in October, and I always swear that the coverage of storms really weakens in October because of, I always joke it's fall in football, but you'll notice when it's June 1st, there's just a lot of media hype on hurricane season. And then toward the end of the season, it gets nothing. It's like people just done with it, So when Michael was forming, I was constantly looking at models. And at one time I put 6 model runs, different models that I follow. All 6 were showing like 930 millibars hurricane, which is Cat 4 or 5, And I guess I made a statement one time, that if I lived there, I would probably be thinking about evacuating. And I always make sure I clarify if it was me,
Yeah.
But it did indeed happen, and I didn't, it wasn't that I was smart or anything. I just follow, I provide, that's one thing that this award is presenting, is that I provide the facts, and people pretty much decide for themselves. I don't think people look to me as a forecaster to tell them what to do. They just like the fact that I'm giving them all the scenarios and offering my opinion, and people pretty much decide for themselves what to do. But that, that storm got very underhyped. It was almost not enough. Luckily, I don't think, it was life or death, but a lot of people were caught off guard because the media waited too long to, talk about it, So that, it's, I just very cautious on what I say, and I think people like it.
Yeah.
The way I handle things.
So when do you evacuate? Have you ever evacuate? What conditions make you want to evacuate a storm?
Well, we had Irma, and we were actually under a hurricane warning here, and I boarded up, which was a cool experience for me because our house that we bought, the previous owner was, I guess, very meticulous, and he had all the wood pre-cut.
Yeah.
It was like, this is easy. It's great. I was like, but then I came back inside, and, we had the storm coming, and I wasn't going to evacuate except where we live. Flooding could be a concern in Tampa Bay. And that's my biggest concern is flooding. But the storm went to our south. And Irma was such a crazy system. I remember tracking it. And there was reports coming out of the Bahamas of the water like disappearing. And at first I saw it on Twitter and it looked like it was fake. But there was docks with just water was gone. And then all of a sudden it started happening in Naples and up the coast of Florida. Well, then it happened here in Tampa. The storm had such a huge rotation. It was just, they were getting flooding up in Jacksonville, but the diameter of Irma was so big that the winds came across the state of Florida, and because the eye was to our south, it literally blew all the water out of Tampa Bay. Wow. Not all the water, but a lot of water. I mean, you could walk out almost a mile from our bay where there's usually water. Um, and that really woke me up because that's reverse of what could happen. That's the wind blowing the water out. If the storm was to our north, it would counterclockwise the water in, and that's where all these surge maps are that show Tampa Bay would actually be underwater with a Category 3.
Gotcha.
And it makes sense. I mean, surge is very unpredictable. It's still being learned, but where we live, we have signs that show water would be here under Category 4 hurricane, and that's scary. Like a mile in, they're 10 feet up in the air. So that's when I would consider moving because we're not close enough to the coast.
Yeah. Yeah, we're like, Wilmington's on the coast. I probably live a mile from the coast. So when we've kind of learned that if any storm's coming, it's probably better just not to be here because when power goes out after a storm and you're just here stuck, it's hot. It's really hot. It's sticky, and you're just gonna be uncomfortable for the next 1 to 5 days. And it's just, you know what? You're better off not going. And when every time that storm's going through and my house is shaking, I say to myself, why? Why did we stay here? Never again. Evacuate. Never again. Just go.
That's it. And I've met a lot of first responders over the years that I never understood why, but they can't be out on the roads. That's a huge thing. They can't respond. They're not allowed. They can't respond to 911 calls. So that's the number one reason. One of the number one reasons is they want you out is because if you need help,
they can't get you.
They can't get you.
Yeah.
And it's a mess, And then like you mentioned, power grid's down. It's not safe driving. One thing I learned this year when we did our little storm chasing was power lines everywhere, debris in the roads. They just, they don't want people driving around. So it makes sense. It's just, man, there's so much cry wolf anymore though. It's like, you don't know, like with Irma, we had Miami being evacuated. The storm ended up going on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So next time we have a storm coming, everybody's worried, they're going to say,
yeah,
been there, done that. I ain't doing it again. So, ugh.
Just because
it's so, in a rough spot.
Yeah, it's so unpredictable. I mean, it is so unpredictable. It's very challenging. So you're doing storm chasing. So tell me about that.
Well, so Laura, when we watched the coverage of Laura, I was like, I can't because of copyright laws and stuff. You can't rebroadcast things.
Sure.
So we used to watch storm chasers together, and rightfully so. That's their footage, and I got in trouble a couple times. I didn't know the laws. Not laws, but internet laws. And I'm like, this isn't fun. So the next storm, another helper I got, Phil, we decided to fly to get a rental and I don't know, be in it. And one of our big supporters was based out of Texas. We got to meet them and see some of the disaster recovery efforts, which was a huge deal for my fans because we got to interview post-storm stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm learning. That to me has been a more of an educational for hopefully my audience and myself understanding the impacts of a storm. I mean, the TV cameras, can't even show you that. So it's a little bit of fun factor. Again, going back to what I said earlier, like 12 hours for a storm. I mean, everybody kind of knows where it's going. I don't feel like I'm as vital as I was maybe a week out. But I still update. I'm still updating every 5 seconds. In fact, I'm in the storm more. Doing it, but man, it is a little rush. I will admit it's been. And now that we're doing it live, it's so weird. Like I drove up to Biloxi on my own, and my Facebook administrator Shelly, we're live. People are like living through me. They're like, there's my house, or there's my road. And they'll be telling me things like, don't go down that road. And she's like, they tell you don't go down that road. And when I went down the road, surge was coming up. Literally, I had to turn around because they knew that road surges.
Oh, man.
So it's crazy. It's like a reality TV show. I mean, I hate it. I mean, that I enjoy it, but it also, it educated me. Now, we went up there for New Year's Eve. There was supposed to be a tornado outbreak, and we flew up there to cover it, and we were just bored. We had miles, so we took a ride to Lake Charles where Laura hit, and this was months after the storm. And man, I've never seen so much destruction that first up close, but to think it was almost 6 months ago. Just like a bomb went off. I mean, people living still in trailers and every street you went down, there was piles of debris. That was a wake-up call. So I think it really has helped me now going forward to understand those type of impacts. Man, those people's lives are changed forever.
Yeah.
Flooding, you mentioned Florence. That was huge. I have a lot of fans that live in New Bern.
Oh
The
yeah.
river backed up,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, it was bad
Um,
up there.
Bad, yeah. I mean, we had Harvey a few years ago, and Texas did the same thing. That's one thing I don't think people realize is everybody, and this is why they hate the media so much, because they hype the coastal areas first off, because that's the most destructive.
Sure.
Obviously, you're going to get the coolest pictures, like
Yeah.
not that destruction's cool, but like the ones they
It's
want.
going to show the the big stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the inland effects are sometimes worse. The flooding,
Yes. Absolutely.
and they don't get any coverage, and that's what people. And once the storm passes, that people forget.
Oh yeah,
Michael, a
they're
year
like, "Oh, it's
later.
gone. The storm's
Yep.
gone." Oh, yeah.
So I'm becoming now. I feel like maybe I can help educate that kind of stuff, because
Yeah.
everybody just thanked the heck out of me when I shared stuff from Laura. They're like, "Man, thank you so much for bringing this to light, because people have forgot us."
No, they
Sad.
do, and it's living through it and seeing the what happens inland is crazy, and seeing what happens here is just mind blowing. And I'm from the Northeast, so we evacuated Florence, and I would talk to people about, oh, they're like, oh, there's a hurricane, like they had no clue that there was, and I'm like,
Really.
it's destroying where I live, like literally destroying us. I mean, when I came back to Wilmington, there were piles of debris. You couldn't see houses because the debris piles were so, I mean, it as you said, it looked like a bomb came through and
Yep.
just hit us. And it took us months and months to get to somewhat normality, let alone like you still see certain destruction in certain places from that storm 3 years ago now.
Yeah. See, people's lives are changed forever,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, it's hurricane season. Unfortunately, it leaves scars on people, and every year we get a storm. This year is expected to be higher than normal again. So unfortunately, we'll have somebody somewhere will be affected. And I think as long as the community can understand what everybody's going through, relate, it really comforts maybe a little bit better. I think that's where social media has helped, at least on my side. I think people
Yeah.
really have lived the experience, can share that experience, and everybody's learning together information. 'Cause a lot of people get, a lot of questions you don't really. I mean, the generator deaths, like during Ada, half the deaths during Tropical Storm Ada was generator deaths
Like in their
inside.
house, running their generator in their house. Yeah.
People still don't know that. They run them in their garages, and so there's a lot of education to be done for sure. And
So
hopefully, I
that
can
that
get
leads
that
me to
going.
my well, really two and a half final questions. So, what advice do you have for people coming up, seeing a storm? What advice do you have for them? Just to monitor it, prepare. Like, what's your general advice to someone who, like, where I live or anywhere along the East Coast? Charleston, wherever.
Right. Well, I think first off, know your trusted sources. Um, don't get caught up in the media hype. First off, one thing about hurricanes is we have a lot of time usually, at least to know. When I say time, it's not like a tornado.
Yeah.
Tornadoes. I mean, we're talking a minute
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. So there's plenty of time. Having a plan. They always talk about having a plan, and I have some links on my site about having a plan. It's very important to kind of know where you're going to go. You have pets, having a plan with your pets, um, and understanding, that if you have to evacuate, where you're going to go, and just prepping your home. There's always a shortage of plywood during these storms. There's always a shortage of plywood clips. So the storm prep before a season is huge, especially like with a generator. People don't realize when you have a generator, you need gas.
Yeah.
Even though one can of gas will barely get you through a day, or some people don't even know they have to have extension cords. So even though you have a generator, like how you can plug things in.
Yeah.
And another big thing people have said I've saved them a ton on is make sure you have battery backups for your chargers.
Yeah.
USB.
Definitely.
That's big, and there's some really good stuff out there you can buy that big battery, they'll run days. But having a way to charge your portable devices is huge, because a lot of times your cell phone towers will remain on because they have backup generators. So having ways to charge your phones is critical.
Yeah.
People don't think about that. And of course, having a little radio is very vital. A little there's a lot of them on Amazon, little crank radios, to listen to the National
Mm-hmm.
Weather Service. Um, but as far as, I think panic, I think eliminate panic from your vocabulary, with hurricanes. I think the biggest fear is fear itself. Isn't that like a famous quote? Because, the chances of you, in all reality, um, there's only a small area really hit hard on an eye of a hurricane. So there's really, sometimes the media gets the whole coast in panic mode, and
Yeah.
reality is only one little small area is going to probably get the worst of it. So just monitor, um, and just be prepared. I mean, these things, they make last second turns. There's always windshield wiper effects. So 1 minute it might be pointing towards Jacksonville, and then it might be going to Savannah, then it might be going down to Daytona,
Yeah.
and then it might be going to. So, every track change I see panic levels increase. And those are things they have to understand that you're going to see that. So you just can't get too worked up early on.
Yeah.
So just kind of watch the weather, and just have a plan in place. And a day or two before, if it looks like you're in the cone, then you're going to have to
Make
make a
that
choice.
decision. Yeah.
Know your flood areas. If you're not in a flood area, then the wind isn't that big. Unless you're off the coast. They say you can hide from the wind, you run from the water. Because
Yeah.
most of your newer home construction is pretty good. Now there's a lot of tree companies now doing storm prep. Cutting back
Yeah.
potential hazards. Something to think about for that. I know a lot more people are posting that they're paying to have excessive limbs, possibly. Especially if you live in rural areas, make sure your tree vegetation isn't around power lines and whatnot, because wind blows tree limbs and that's what knocks power out.
Definitely.
So a lot of people told me that live in rural areas that they've monitored their own power lines and power
Yeah.
grids. So yeah, so I don't, Red Cross came and did a hurricane special at our house, and I didn't even have a hurricane kit. So I think some people over panic, over prepare, and I just believe you just kind of wait until the time to panic.
Yeah.
Because chances are it's not going to affect everybody.
That's easier said than done for myself. I'm watching it like 10 days out. I'm like, oh, I see one of those spaghetti lines is coming towards Wilmington. That's not a good sign. Got to start thinking about this.
No, yeah, and that's where the media gets you. I mean,
They do. They get me. They get me.
They do, and and that's the number one thing I get from people. They hate it. They hate the hype. So I guess the one thing I've learned over the years is the fear comes from the hype, and that's what people hate about hurricane season. They know the hype's coming, the 24/7 coverage, and you just get worked. You believe you get worked out, especially when it's just being crammed down your throat everywhere you look.
It's very easy to doom scroll and just keep finding it and finding it and finding it. So what's next for you and Mike's weather page?
Well, I tried TikTok. Believe it or not, there's more people on TikTok. But no, seriously, I have been on TikTok. I can't figure that one out.
Yeah, I'm not on. That's one of the newer media platforms I'm not on. I'm not on TikTok
I've tried.
yet. No.
I've tried. There's some people that only live on there.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I think I'm very pleased where we're at. I'm looking at the site now. We've got just this polishing the polishing the product. I mean, I'm very happy where it's at. The Facebook page is just crazy good. I mean, I can count on one hand how many bad eggs we've really had over the years, which is amazing.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, and I got some supporters, some companies that support the page.
That's
I'm
awesome.
trying to. So this year we're gonna maybe a little more education. Like we have a generator company, Furman, big fans of our page, and they're big about education. So I think we're gonna try to do more of that when we're downtime, just to go back to the generator, when to run them. There's like industry wise, I didn't even realize insurance adjusters were such a big part of storms. A lot of people don't. So we have a couple insurance adjusters that are big fans of our site, and they fight for you and they get you a lot more money. Didn't even know that. So that industry, there's flooding companies that come in, like if you were flooded, they come in, they take every one of your they take every household item, they package it, they store it. I mean, then they come back and bring it. I mean, these are services I didn't even realize.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't know that
So
existed.
that might be what's next. Maybe just a little more education.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
just bringing more knowledge.
yeah, I think that's good. I'm a big fan of education, so I think whenever it's helping people out, I mean, it's one of the reasons I like your site is that it's informing people. I mean, people can't find all those models. I mean, that's, when I first found your site, that's what I liked is, hey, all these models are in one place. I don't need to have 80 bookmarks or try to keep finding these links. Someone's done it for me. So let me save my time and have it all right here. So,
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's
it's
cool
awesome.
to know.
It's awesome,
Cool
and
to know.
it's a site that I really like, but I hate going to your site because that
Yeah.
means something bad is coming. So it's the site that people are like, oh no, it's like around here, it's like, oh no, September's coming. Like we're going to be
know.
glued to
August, September.
glued to your site then, and watching all the storms coming up the coast. It's a exciting and scary and just
Yeah.
crazy time
There-
of the season.
There is a little bit about that excitement. I don't know, nobody wishes on a storm to come, but deep down inside, I mean, most people get excited. Weird to say, but it pumps the adrenaline.
Yeah, it does.
I think another thing you said, what's next? I mean, we evolved into these morning lives, and now last year I did the evening lives, and it's almost a way for me to digest while I'm thinking.
Sure.
I call it my thinking out loud session.
Your self-reflection.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, and people like it. So we're doing a little more of that, and it's pretty cool. I mean, I do look forward to the season. It's like I said, I remember going to bed at night as a kid and could not wait for the tropical update to see if the cone shifted. And I would actually get depressed if it shifted away. I don't know why. It's not like I want a storm. But as a kid, I was like, oh man, it's coming.
It was like all that prep and excitement for nothing almost. Like it's that weird, like I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, and I tell you what I learned more than anything this year was when I went and saw the damage from Laura. I never want a hurricane like that.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, I said, it'd be fun, a little danger. But man, no, and that'll be something I can at least get out to people, take it serious. It's serious business. I mean, these things, it's scary times, but well, I'm here, we all learn and kind of go forward. The season will start next month, believe it or not. May, they're going to start issuing tropical outlooks this season.
Not looking forward to that. Another season, another time I'm going to have to evacuate. Well, Mike, this has been great.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, it's been very informative. I learned a lot of stuff. It's just cool to hear about how your site started, all the stuff you guys are up to and what you're doing and how it's grown into this, really helpful place for people to, learn about what's coming, learn about the weather, watch all the different models. And, people are learning that people didn't even realize there were multiple models. Like there's a Euro, there's 50 different models out there. Just to be able to watch them in one place has been really helpful. And the live updates, I think that's really where it's at. As you said, the Facebook live updates, that really captures and it gives people more, and you actually respond to questions. And I think that's what's helpful, even though everyone's asking, should I evacuate? Is it coming here? Is it going to hit here? Like you can't, but that's awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And if we get a storm heading your way and I decide to storm chase, then we'll.
Yeah, you got someone to contact. Definitely.
I got friends on the Outer Banks.
Yes.
And they seem to get skirted a lot.
Yes. We tend to get smacked in Wilmington. We're like a big bullseye for some odd reason. We are a bullseye.
Bowling balls in doesn't recurve.
Yeah, that Cape Fear River maybe. I know something just sucks them right towards us.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map and something just juts out there.
Yeah.
But that's another thing. I mean, you had Sandy a couple years ago go up to Jersey and New York.
Mm-hmm.
You just never know. I mean, a lot of these predictors are forecasting on areas this early in the season, like, this area here is going to get hit harder than nobody knows.
No.
I mean, we could have one little slight shift in the high pressure and like Sandy turn back into the coast. Florence again. Florence is the best example of a storm that didn't everything it wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah.
So that's why you got to stay glued. Again, back to the advice. stay glued to all the possibilities. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to keep people, watching, but
you have to watch it. You got to watch it. If it's coming, if there's a chance, you got to watch
Yeah,
it. You got to know and be prepared and ready and
pretty much. But the
so
biggest thing is, like you said, the traveling's huge. You evacuated. I see it again. The hotels fill up.
yeah,
Trying to find a hotel to take pets.
yeah,
So I think having a plan, if you're really worried about the season, I think mainly it's just like, all right, what's the plan? Like where are we going to go? What are we
yeah.
going to do with our pets? And basically that's it. Just have a map. Beat the traffic, get the heck out of Dodge. Have gas. Gas shortages always happen.
Yeah.
So I think, I understand that have a plan thing. I'm more of a rebel and wait till the last second, but having a plan is huge. Really.
I'm the planner. Everyone here, it seems like a lot of the locals are like, if it's a 3 or lower, I'm here, not even thinking about it. 4, I'll think about evacuating. Me, I'm like a 1. Oh no, like get me out of here.
Yeah.
But we've stayed through them, and every time, same thing. Never again. Are we staying through a storm?
My old dad said the same thing. He's like, Irma was the one as it passed us, and he's like, I'll never stay here again. He's like, he's an old, codger from the back in the day, and he's like, I'll stay. Now he's like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Because you hear that howling and the winds and
the house is shaking. Like the house is shaking, and your power's out, and you're just like, this stinks. I just have to stay here now, and I'm stuck.
And tornadoes that you mentioned, the tornadoes are a huge part of these storms. They spin up, and but yeah, well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I know your fans and followers. I'm usually accessible on there. I got my email, so if anybody ever has any questions, I try to get to them. So,
all right, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, man, thank you.